Marijuana has many names in the market. It is illegal in India, and yet your friends, relatives, and every other peer associated with you have openly talked about marijuana. Some of you might have even used it. So why the taboo around it? Why do people go berserk? The moment someone enunciates the word marijuana, is it really the devil? And if it is the devil, why not denounce cigarettes or alcohol in the same way? Smoking kills 1.2 million Indians each year, with passive smoking causing health problems to millions of others, and yet it is perfectly legal to produce and buy cigarettes. Well, the answer is simple. It is the pharmaceutical and tobacco industry that is pulling the strings from behind and ensuring that marijuana remains on the red list. And we don't need to tell you about the lobbying power of pharma groups after a complete year of seeing them trying to sell their overpriced vaccines in our country, right? Just to be clear, we are not endorsing the usage of marijuana, tobacco, or alcohol in any form. Hi and welcome. You're watching TFI English, the National Socio-Political Analysis arm of TFI Media Group. I'm your host Aravind, and in this video, I'll tell you how big tobacco ensured that hemp and marijuana become taboos forever. Let's begin. In India, marijuana, hemp, or weed has been used for ages. Even today, Holi, the festival of color, is often associated with bhang. The concoction is made by mixing dried and ground cannabis leaves with milk, kesar, almonds, and spices. Some places in India also make the bhang drink with yogurt. The result is a frothy, thandai-like drink that gives you a heady high. Bhang drink finds a mention in ancient Hindu texts like Atharva Veda as a reliever of anxiety and stress. Marijuana is the oldest known medicine that humans have been using for at least 3,500 years. In olden India, marijuana was used for its medicinal properties. Ayurveda, which again is also ostracized by the West, used marijuana as a painkiller and for several other medicinal benefits. The only time in recorded human history where cannabis has not been a fundamental part of our world has been the past 80 years, and in India, the last 4 decades or so. It would be interesting for the viewer to note that India had not banned marijuana up until the 80s, and it was only when our revered and supposedly advanced Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi came to power that India buckled under pressure from the US pharmaceutical lobby, and the naturally occurring medicinal plant was banned. These pharma companies use marijuana to produce their painkillers and several other high-end medicines, only to be sold at astronomical prices. Notice, if marijuana was legal, such medicines would not have been needed. United Nations, you must have heard a lot about this supposed international organization in the last 2 years, especially its agency, World Health Organization. And why wouldn't you? The agency single-handedly has ensured that the planet suffers the consequences of its dubious actions. While it is China today that holds the UN in its palms, it was the US and the pharmaceutical industry in the 80s that did the same. It was the UN acting on the money might of the tobacco industry that described marijuana as a synthetic drug and batted aggressively for its ban across the 7 continents. Yes, a plant that grows in the ground was called synthetic. Don't believe us? Read this paragraph from the UN report and make your assumption. In the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, cannabis and cannabis resin are described, respectively, as the flowering or fruiting tops of the cannabis plant, excluding the seeds and leaves when not accompanied by the tops, from which the resin has not been extracted, and as the separated resin, whether crude or purified, obtained from the cannabis plant. The main psychoactive element responsible for most of the intoxicating effects that people seek from marijuana is THC, which is found in resin produced by the leaves and buds primarily of the female cannabis plant. However, the UN at the time of the adoption of the 1961 Single Convention of Narcotic Drugs referred to THC as synthetic and thus started the dubious campaign to besmirch marijuana, the plant. The UN pretty cleverly used this power of semantics to prove its point. Weed is the dried cannabis plant. Simple. It is innocuous if ingested in moderate quantities, whereas hash is made from the resin and sap of cannabis. Hash oil can contain about 90% of THC, as compared to the 12% THC levels found in other cannabis products. The tobacco as well as the pharmaceutical industry is afraid that once legalized, the marijuana industry can absolutely render them useless. The USA and its tobacco lobby managed to put a ban on marijuana production and consumption in India, but now over 18 states in the US have legalized it for recreation purposes, 36 for medical sales. The US legal marijuana industry was estimated at $13.6 billion in 2019, with 340,000 jobs devoted to the handling of plants, according to the New Frontier data. In 2020, according to the Forbes report, marijuana sales hit a record of $17.5 billion, a 46% increase from 2019. Meanwhile, India practically has a non-existent industry and all the money goes to the traffickers and terror outfits. Cocaine, heroin, and other synthetic drugs are where the problem lies, but the governments across the world are not ready to have that discussion. After all, we live in a capitalistic society and the government loves taking a moral ground and simultaneously minting the money. Hemp is another subset of the marijuana plant. The hemp plant is also known as the super plant because of its versatility and multiple usages. The fiber of the hemp plant is used extensively in the West to produce clothes and other textile-related products. Hemp fabric is known to be of better quality than cotton. Also, West is extensively researching the usage of hemp as an alternate of the traditional fuel, while in India, hemp cultivation is quite limited to certain areas and for certain sectors and medicinal purposes only. The rationale given behind raising the price of tobacco products is that they are discouraging the users to stop taking such substances. However, we never really get a rough figure of consumers increasing or decreasing. Although we do know that the higher taxes on tobacco products means that the government coffers continue to overflow. Remember how cricket is an integral part of us, Indians, and our lives. A majority of us complain that Indian stadiums look ugly on television, right? Most of the stadiums are plastered with ads of tobacco companies. If the price increase was discouraging the users, these companies would not have been buying TV spots, stadium spots in India and abroad. Tobacco companies understand that once they have given someone the taste of their deadly products, they will keep coming back, no matter the price. The surrogate advertising may be at its peak at the moment, but in the past, big tobacco companies like Benson and Hedges hosted entire World Cups and no one batted an eye. Such is the influence of these companies for the last few decades. Then emerged the NGOs, which have been a major voice of protest against the marijuana industry. Like we have established on innumerable occasions on TFI, the NGOs, barring a few, are nothing but a front for vested interest groups. They do the bidding of these companies on their funds and thrive. Sterlite Copper Plant, Sardar Sarovar Dam, Foxconn Factory, POSCO Factory all have one common thread: the NGOs trying to derail them. Similarly, the tobacco and pharmaceutical industry funnels billions of dollars through the NGOs to proclaim that marijuana is nothing but the second incarnation of the devil and those using it are the evil. It is now that we know how harmful cigarettes are, but in the past, these tobacco products were marketed as a symbol of freedom. The movies even had female actors puffing a cigarette. A conscious idea was dropped in our brains that smoking equated to power. Back in 1998, the US government and 5 major tobacco companies signed on to what was called the Master Settlement Agreement, which meant that tobacco companies had to pay states billions of dollars a year to cover costs related to the health effects of smoking because the public had been misled about them. As for India, they continue to mislead. Thus, all we ask is the government and the ordinary people of India to be pragmatic, keep risky activities out in the open where they can be regulated and of course taxed. Not like we have been doing up until now by pushing them underground into zones of disorder. The benefits of marijuana are many. It is a sleep aid, appetite enhancer, anxiety and pain reliever. It has brought immense relief to the terminally ill. It's also muscle relaxant, aiding speeding recovery from body-breaking fevers like chikungunya. And as more legal research is done into it, more medically proven benefits are bound to suffer. Bharat was always aware of it. The Netherlands has seen a reduction in crime and use of synthetic drugs ever since the legalization of pot. Surely, the Babus of India can also come up with a half-decent proposal to do the same, so that we can extract the maximum benefit from the illegal plant in India.